And I remember from that study that it said that they outsourced 12% of their, 25% of their work, but the study went on to state that the average was 12. We are under that, however.
Alderman Winger?
I like how more numbers have been compiled, and it does help to give a bigger picture of what's happening. And I would say before we add a whole nother full-time person, that I'd like to see more scrutiny performed on where can we be more efficient. I'm not saying that you're not efficient, but I just feel there might be opportunities out there for more efficiency. Maybe talking with the police department to see which way is better, that two people from the police department drop off the car and then go back to the police department and grab their other car, because they're on the streets anyway, so at least they're out in public when they're doing this. And, of course, if they get called on an emergency, that's gonna take precedent over taking the car for an oil change. They would just go to the emergency or what have you. So maybe there are areas, so I would prefer that we look into some of those areas before going forward and adding a whole nother full-time person, especially in this economy. And that's that was my other concern of adding a whole full-time person. When we are in this economy, I would not want to lay someone off a year or two later. So I really want to be sure that this is the right decision, because I don't like laying anybody off, and I don't ever want to be in that faced with that decision. Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? I got one more question. 1 minute, let me, Alderman Sharkey?
I think the other alderman had his hand up
Oh, okay.
a while first, then I'll
Go
go.
ahead. Alderman Risley?
I think that, again, we looked at 20,000 for outsourcing, roughly. We're talking $68,000. That's $40,000 difference. Even if they outsource another 20,000, we're still ahead. So in comparison, these numbers, the only numbers you actually could compare here is the forest preserve to the city of Wooddale, because those are the only fleet of the whole fleet that you're talking about. That is, the other things you have guidelines, and those are from, I don't know, are those from magazines, or how did you come up with those guidelines?
The two guidelines that are listed at the bottom, one was from American Public Works Association, which is, basically our closest trade publication, which would be for public works information. They cited 73-to-1 vehicle equivalence, which basically includes all equipment, would be a average, but they did stress that there really is no benchmark, no true guideline. All operations are different, but that was just what they listed in '89. The Stone and Webster was a similar publication that was Stone and Webster Fleet Magazine that listed that as theirs of 62.5-to-1. Those are the only two ratios that in my research I came up with that had any true comparables. But they did mention that they were not just citing true rolling stock, they were including all equipment within those guideline specs.
Alderman Sharkey?
Yeah, on the list you gave us, you don't have this on a slide, I guess, but Wooddale's population is approximately 13,500, our sign says. And all of these on here, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, which might equate, except for one, Itasca has only 8,000, but all the rest are close to the same number we have, and they're all one or two. One mechanic or one mechanic and assistant, one mechanic and assistant. There's only one town that has two mechanics besides ourselves. And when you're looking, I'm just wondering about these vehicles now. When you're talking about Antioch having a total of 120 vehicles, they have 120 trucks out there? I mean, that means that they have a truck for every 100 people in town. It seems like an excessive amount, unless they're adding on these other equipment things like you've put down separately. It just, looking at this whole list here, looks like we probably are where we should be with 2 mechanics by your own figures.
I did want to do a comparables which showed populations close to ours, as well as try and show some towns that had same equivalent number of mechanics as well. I didn't want to skew it and leave towns out. So once I got the tabulations, I included them all.
Well, the only other one, the only town that's quite bigger is Addison, of course, and they've got 36,000 people and 3 mechanics. So they have 1 mechanic for about every 12,000 people, and we have right now 1 mechanic for about every 7,000 people. Am I right?
Correct. And the forest preserve too. They really no population size there, but just the size of their fleet. That's kind of where we were going at with this, was more comparing similar sized towns, but also trying to compare similar sized fleets in that as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? Mr. Lewington? Alderman Lewington?
Thank you, Joe. Alderman Coles. I just have a question or thing. There's a rule called the law of large numbers, which says that in order to get an actuarially true average, you have to have large numbers, because a small group of numbers could be skewed by luck or unluck. So in other words, 2 mechanics could be sufficient if we have luck. If we are unlucky, we maybe need 3 mechanics. What's the probability that we could separate motor vehicle repairs from non-motor vehicle mechanical repairs and look, and I ask you this, Mayor, to an intergovernmental motor pool for motor vehicles, where you get the law of large numbers, where you can get the right number of mechanics because you have a fleet of over 1,000 vehicles if you pool several cities. It's a separate governmental body. It would stand on its own. We would reduce our number of mechanics maybe to 1 for non-motorized mechanical work, and that person could then be hired by the motor pool, and 5 or 6 cities could get together and have 1 large motor pool. And certainly, things like oil changes, which are maintenance and checking the wheels and the brakes and the exhaust and every other thing that's checked, they can just be coming and going all the time, because all the cars can have numbers and have a regular rotation, and you got a mechanic who just knows to change oils, and the more you do the same thing over, the more you cut down the time. Now, I've thrown out a question. I don't know who has an answer, or why has it never been tried before, or is it impractical, or is it practical? Mayor Johnson?
When we purchased and designed the Public Works facility, the thought was that we would provide mechanical services for all the units of government in Wooddale, the school district, the park district, and even the fire department. And as I recall, the lift was designed so that it could even pick up the fire truck. However, none of the governments wanted to participate in that program. And it's certainly a novel idea and something we could look into, but we designed the facility with that in mind, and the other governments didn't get together with us and cooperate on that.
Anybody else got any questions? I have one question. Can I speak? All right. I just wanted to say that we probably need a mechanic, and we probably won't get one. But remember, in the wintertime, when the trucks break down and we have nobody plowing the snow because we don't have the trucks running, because they're broke down and we're waiting to get them fixed, I don't want people calling John, the alderman calling John, and the people calling us and saying, how come our streets ain't plowed? Or the police department can't get down the street because it's all ice, because we're holding back for one mechanic. And I think it's a disservice to the city service by trying to hold back for one man. Just changing oil, if you go to, I don't want to mention the names because we could get libeled, but if you go to a place, they drive in, the kid gets underneath there, drops the oil pan, forgets to put the plug in, the guy squirts the oil in, the guy drives out and blows out the engine. That's what we call fast doing. When you put a car up on a hoist, you inspect the underneath. That's the only time the underneath is inspected, when it's up in the hoist being changed. And this is the way it's supposed to be done. So my personal feeling is that we should have one, and it's up to you. It's up to us. Now, you can decide what you want to do. And I guess this is just for discussion. I don't know if we're going to take a vote on it or not. Mayor, can I make a motion that we take a vote on it, or?
I think staff is looking for direction from the city council
right.
on this one way or
Well-
the other.
And I'd like to have the staff look into it on how much it costs and everything for a mechanic, and then we can vote on it.
I think the appropriate motion is direct city staff to fill the position or not fill the position.
All right.
Or delete it from the budget. Any of those three alternatives, I think, would be the appropriate motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that you look into, staff looks into it, and
Well-
come up.
And look is a very vague and generic term. You're either directing him to
Direct you to look, to
fill the position.
fill the position. All right. All in favor? Aye. All right, roll call. Okay, we'll get it that way. We'll get it that way.
Alderman Shockey? Alderman Winger?
No.
Alderman Cadella?
Yes.
Alderman Police?
No.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
No.
Alderman Lewiton?
I'd like to say one thing before I vote. When you vote one way doesn't mean you mean it absolutely. I vote no.
Sorry, didn't pass. Thank you. Okay. All right, report and recommendation for additional streetlight near 275 Wellness Drive. All right, staff was asked several months ago to investigate the possibility of adding an additional streetlight at or near the curve at Weldon Drive. This is in the 3rd Ward. Proposal area has a streetlight already owned by Commonwealth Edison. Staff contacted Commonwealth Edison to obtain the price of installation of an additional streetlight. The price of insulation and material for the streetlight would be $7,664, or it could be spread out over 153 months at $50.09 per month. Additional maintenance costs for this light would be $49.96 per month. This is the price the city would pay for each of the ed lights for electricity during the billing cycle. The staff is looking for directions for the council to proceed with the installation. I make a motion that we, unless we get some questions? Question, okay. Let's go, Alderman Lewiton first.
What I see is really they're giving us an A and a B option. They're giving us an option to approve it with payment up front, and B, to approve it with payment spread out. I did the math, and I'd like to make a statement first. I'm in a business where if people prepay, they get a discount. You know, I sell insurance, and if somebody pays an annual premium up front, he gets a 5% discount from the company. If you take the installment payment plan, it comes up to the exact same amount as the pay in advance plan. There's no discount. So, you know, I'm for this. I'll make that statement right up front. But why aren't we offered any discount if we prepay? And if we don't get a discount, I would never vote to pay them up front. Let us use the money over the time that they're offering. So basically, I've asked you 2 questions, and that is, why is there no discount for prepayment? Because you're talking about paying up front over, as opposed to many years, and the time value of money is the money today is worth more than tomorrow. So why aren't we getting any discount? And if not, then are you in favor of paying them monthly as they request, as alternate B?
Mr. Kramer, can you answer that question?
I'll try. Alderman Lewiton, when we got the direction to investigate this light, we contacted ComEd directly, asked them what would be the best way for us to possibly get a new light at that location, and that's the proposal that they came to us. We did not inquire about any discount on prepayment or versus paying for the light all at once. I assume, and perhaps the mayor might know more than I, that when street lights are installed in bulk, perhaps towns don't have the upfront cost to pay for them all at once, so they offer them a per month cost. That's purely a guess on my part. I guess the third option, which I didn't spell out in this memo, and I'll state now, we don't have to install the light either. It's not, staff was asked to get a price for installing this light. There could be an option of no action and not putting a light up as well.
Well, I thank you for your answer. I don't know if we're going to postpone voting on this or not, but I would certainly say that before you decide whether to do option A or option B, is ask for a prepayment discount.
Okay. What's that? Mr. Kramer?
I could contact ComEd and ask them the possibility.
Oh, okay,
I've got a couple questions on this.
go ahead.
Number one, I'm not sure how this came about. Is that corner very dark? I should have probably driven by, but is that why it came about?
Correct. There currently is streetlights on Welter, all owned by ComEd. There is no streetlight at this location. Alderman Shockey might help me a little bit. This is truly on a curve, and it's directly across from a bulb court. So there is a fair amount of traffic coming around that corner, and it is extremely dark. I've been out there on several occasions, and it is not well lit. As far as traffic accidents, I did not investigate any further if we have accidents, lawn damage, et cetera.
The reason I'm asking is because when I first got on the council, I had somebody on one of the streets ask, so I came in, talked to, I believe, the city manager at the time. And basically they said, well, usually we'll look at street lighting when we do the roads and whatnot. But if we're gonna pass one here and this resident sees this, I know she's gonna call me again. And I know there's 3 blocks in a row there's only a street light at each end of the corner. So if we're gonna give it here, I'm sure everybody's gonna be willing to give it once the residents on those 3 blocks want them. I just wanna make sure that I'm in agreement. I'll go for it, but when the resident calls me, I expect to go for it also.
All right. Alderman Cadella? No. Oh, the mayor? Okay.
I was a little surprised at the $49.96 per month maintenance. I mean, I think they replace the bulb once a year or something, unless that's the cost of electricity for the light.
It is.
All right. Alderman Cadella?
Yeah, along the
We're gonna go
lines
down
of,
the list.
what? Oh, we're
We'll
going
go
down. along the lines of the last thing Alderman Police said. Right now, off the top of my head, I can come up with about 25 spots in Ward 2 we can put the street lights to. So, and out of those 25, I'm sure I've had somewhere between 5 and 10 conversations with residents who've brought it up to me that they'd be very interested in having them there too. So if this is a dark and dangerous area, I'm okay with it, but I'd really, not like to set a precedent without having a good action plan in place here as to how we're going to proceed with where streetlights are going to go on dark spots in Wooddale. So that's my only concern with this. Beyond that, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to do this, but I want to make sure that it's fair to all 13,500 residents.
Alderman Winger?
Yeah, I've always understood that we bring them forward when these issues arise. We don't wait for the streets to get looked at or to get redone. So don't hang on to them, pick the ones that need to come forward and let's look at them. And also, being in I lost my train of thought. So I'm gonna leave it at that bring them forward and we're gonna look at them. Oh, but also be careful because a lot of residents don't want it in front of their house. So it ends up being a political issue as well. So not every light that gets requested will probably go in because it will create a neighborhood discussion. Thank you.
Alderman Shockey?
Yeah, the resident that requested this light requested it because it is a right turn, a complete 45-degree angle. I know we have lights on street corners normally, and this is like a half a street corner because it is a sharp curve over there. But what gets me is at $49.96 a month for these maintenance, and it takes them 3 to 6 months to repair a bulb? I mean, do we count that against them? Do we take that off our bill when they leave a light bulb burned out for 6 months? I don't understand that. I can't believe that we're paying almost $50 a light just for electricity.
Staff has been very diligent with sending in ComEd reports of streetlights out, pole damage. They are at times very, very slow.
I know staff is doing it, but ComEd isn't.
Again, Public Works has no control over how fast ComEd turns around, does repairs. I will have to confer with the finance director if he wants to look at possibly not paying for lights that are not lit.
Has anybody else got any questions? Alderman Lewitton?
I listened to the other aldermen talk, and it seemed to me that I missed the point that they brought up, and that is that staff should develop a criterion of what constitutes a bona fide request for a streetlight and what is not a bona fide request. And they should have it, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3. What takes precedence? So if you do get 4 or 5 at one time, and there's only money to do 2, that you have a program already set out by criteria what to do first. Any motion I'd like your permission to add to whatever motion you make that staff establish a criteria for honoring or presenting to us proposals for additional streetlights in the future. And I think that was very good. I think 2 people picked up on that down at the other end.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, the mayor?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out to the council, this one, as I understand it, was unusually expensive. If you look at the bill or the estimate from ComEd, 5,600 of it is the cost for boring. They're going to go under the street. Have we looked at the possibility of locating the light on the opposite side of the street and saving the $5,600?
It is on the same side of the street that the ComEd transformer is on. The problem is we're going through under a sidewalk, under a driveway, and between 2 houses in order to put it in that rear yard. There is quite a bit of fences and other landscape areas that prevent us from trenching it or preventing ComEd from trenching it. That's why their recommendation was to directional bore it.
Is there any other optional locations where we would avoid that expense?
No, unfortunately, because the transformer is located on that side of the street.
All right, Alderman Police?
John, you just said in the rear yard. This is in somebody's yard or on the street?
The transformer where the
No,
pole
the
would-
light, the pole, where the pole's gonna go.
the pole would be on the street. The transformer that we need to hook up to tie in power is in the rear yard. The rear yard provides power along that stretch of welter.
Anybody else got any questions? All right, I would like to make a motion to approve this installation at 275 Walnut Drive, an additional streetlight with the addition of making a priority list on who wants streetlights put in and go according to that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes. Okay. What?
How about opposes?
How about opposes?
No one opposes.
Nobody opposes. We got it through. All right, let's get, anybody got any other questions? Okay. Next on the agenda, report and recommendation on contract award for a 2009 branch and bark chipper. All right. This was proposed by Public Works. I'm gonna, everybody got a paper on it, so I'm gonna read. During the summer of 2008, when we had that high wind event, which caused numerous damage to many city-owned and private trees, and caused the street division to work additional overtime to involve disposal of trees, as well as additional brush pickup that are not included in monthly subcontract brush collection. All right, the budget FY 09/10 budget included $60,000 in funds to replace the city-owned brush and branch chipper. Currently, the unit is scheduled for replacement. Is a 1995 unit with over 4,000 hours on it. We sent out a bid, and we had two people that bid. The lowest one was Alexander Equipment, was for $49,695, and then they gave us a minus of $10,500 on trade-in, totaling $39,195. The bid included options of painting it, a unit school bus yellow, and a unit with orange and red colors similar to the existing machine. Alexander's Equipment Company Incorporated said no charge for painting it. All right. Staff is not recommending the option due to future cost of replacement parts needed on a paint to matching. All right. Now, anybody got any questions? We recommend a purchase of contract award to Alexander Equipment Company Incorporated, a total cost of $39,195. Has anybody got any questions? Alderman Dan Chuck.
Last year, during budget, it wasn't you, John, but it was the former building director that convinced this council that we should outsource the chipping because it would be a wash, because it would cost $90,000 to have it outsourced